Coming up next, let me just say this. We are going to be joined by Tom DeLonge. Yes, Tom DeLonge. From To the Stars, because we're going to be talking about those UFO videos that were released, what that means, what's on the horizon for him, and what they're working on now. Very excited to have our next guest as well. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're at, and you know our next guest from his incredible legacy in rock and music, with being one of the co-founders of Blink-182, Angels and Airwaves, but also he is the co-founder and CEO of To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, and they previously released videos of UFOs filmed by U.S. Navy pilots, and just this week, according to the Department of Defense, the aerial phenomena observed in the videos remain characterized as unidentified, confirming these videos. That is an incredible accomplishment on its own. Joining us right now, we have Tom DeLonge. Tom, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. One of the things we're asking everybody, and in particular people who are usually outperforming and out on the road, is how are you holding up during quarantine?
I'm doing okay. You know, I thank you for asking. I think that I have it better than a lot of people have it, because I have a little bit of space here and I got some windows to see, you know, the sky and to see some trees and stuff. You know, I had a few friends that got sick, but they were all okay. One person that got pretty sick was Lou Elizondo, that works for me, that came from the Pentagon, that ran the UFO program for the U.S. government. He got it pretty bad, but he came out of it okay, and he got it early on. And then some other friends of mine, like, you know, they just go, oh, my legs hurt, like I went for a run, and like that was it. They had like no fevers or anything like that. So all in all, we're doing well. My family's healthy, and we're just waiting for these beaches to stay open.
Right, yeah, that's the most important thing, is being healthy and staying safe. Talking about, though, To the Stars, and what an incredible thing this was this week. So you released these videos back in, I think it was 2017, 2018, respectively, these 3 different videos. And now this week, with this Department of Defense, the Pentagon basically saying that, yeah, no, this is confirmed, we don't know what these are. When that came through, how did you feel about that? What went through your mind when you received that public confirmation of these?
Well, you know, we had a little bit of traction on these videos a couple years ago when the New York Times confirmed them. And then the Navy came out a handful of months later and said that these are real unidentified aerial phenomena, and that unidentified flying objects are real, you know, and that was a big deal, you know, and that happened about a year ago. And so then now the Department of Defense, which obviously sits higher than the Navy, published the videos and is confirming it and doing the same thing, but on a larger scale. And, you know, a lot of people are reaching out to me saying, oh my God, you feel so like vindicated and stuff. And I tend to tell people that, you know, on like an ego level, I'm just like, I told you guys, you know, but really the other 99% of me that cares about this subject is more, you know, I have more compassion for people that are just kind of coming into this. They don't know much about it. It's going to be a little scary, a little unnerving for some people. It's going to make a lot of people question their belief systems. It's going to change kind of what you think about, you know, who we are as human beings and the path we're on and where we're going. And those types of things will rock people's world, you know, and there's some good that comes with this subject, but there's also some bad, you know. And so I think, you know, from my point of view, I just want to, you know, keep working really hard with my team at To the Stars to be able to, you know, the company was built as a vehicle to exploit the technology, communicate the stories, and further the study of this, because there's a lot we don't know. And I just want to focus on that and get people through this hump.
Well, looking at this, you know, with these videos, just to kind of, because I want to talk about what it is that you're working on too, but to get just a little bit more of an understanding, do you have theories on the origin of these objects in this video?
Not the origin. You know, I have a lot of, obviously I have a lot of inside knowledge just because of the people I share company with. And I do know a lot about the subject because I've been researching it for decades. I've been brought into a couple different groups of people that are responsible for the subject with the U.S. government. But, you know, to try to guess exactly where they're from when looking at an object like that on a camera, it's like, it's too much of a leap, you know, to pretend that you would know who's piloting this thing or where it's exactly from. We're not doing that as a company. As an individual, if I'm having a beer with some friends or something, I would be able to say, well, if these are the things that we think, or that are being talked about in certain circles, but it's not for an interview like this. From the company to the stars standpoint is much more of like, what scientifically can we prove? How do we, get our government to create a system that's accountable and goes all the way up to Congress? And how do we gather the data, and how do we put in the national security policy that's necessary for our pilots and other civilians that are having encounters with these things? I think that the big thing that we've done as a company is we've built an artificial intelligence system called the Vault that is a machine learning algorithm that's extremely advanced, and it's going to help us with some of the who, what, where, when, why of this, and give us kind of a scientific methodology of sorts to be able to get to the bottom of some of these questions.
Talking about that with the technology that you're building with AI, do you think that is going to expedite the timeline of finding out? I mean, clearly, I guess, finding out a little bit more about these, but do you anticipate more videos, more evidence being released in a quicker timeline?
Yeah, because, basically, when the U.S. government, is doing something that's classified or doing something that's a little bit when they're doing something where no one's noticing what they're doing, they're gonna stick at it. They're not gonna go out and talk about it. That's not their job. Their job is to solve problems, national security problems, or take care of us civilians in various ways. But when you actually can point the finger at something specific, like this video, and the radar data and the pilots and all the testimonies and all the documents or whatever, they're not allowed to lie. It's illegal for them to lie. Now they can skirt the issue if it's classified. They can say no comment, but if they come out and actually lie, that's a federal offense. These guys work for us. So I think now that we have these videos and we're able to bring this out, and To the Stars Academy was heading up all the briefings over on the Hill. We set up the briefings for senators and congressmen and a lot of other places in the government. And now that everyone's learning about this and learning what's been going on, and I think that we're in a really good position to see more videos, to see more evidence. To the government now is I don't say the government as a whole. The whole government doesn't work together like some one big beautiful organism. It's not like that. It's like you got to think of it as this multi-trillion-dollar corporation that has all these divisions. You look at Disney. They have Marvel. That's probably a $20-30 billion division of Disney. Now, what Marvel is doing, Disney might not really know everything about, or whatever. So you got to think of the government as,
right,
different programs and things happening. Now that this, a small group of people knew about this stuff, it's starting to go everywhere. And I think they're running around saying, wow, now we really can't skirt this issue anymore. Now we really must acknowledge it, deal with it. The cat's out of the bag. And you can't put the cat back in the bag with something like this. So I think we're going to see a lot more, and I think it's going to change the world. And I've been saying this for 3 years now, that there's a lot coming, and I really mean it. There's a lot more coming. I can't get into it, but it's going to be a wild ride, and it's going to have profound effects on our society.
Wow. Now I really want to know what it is, but obviously I've got to wait. For you, something else I wanted to ask you too, and this just has to do with space travel in general and the advancements of the space programs, and in particular commercial space travel. It's going to be possible to go up into space soon as a tourist in a much easier fashion. Is that something you would want to do? Do you want to go to space personally?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even want to go to a submarine. I'm thinking like, you have 1 inch of metal or glass next to death. It seems pretty scary to me. But I think I think that if we were to do, one of the things we're after at To the Stars Academy is advanced propulsion using magnetics and getting into things that are opposite of combustion engines and doing a more divine propulsion system that's works in harmony with the natural system of the earth. And I think once we did something like that and mastered that, it would be a different story to get people into space. Like now on a rocket that can explode going 17,000 miles an hour with all the friction and vibrating, and one little tile comes off on reentry and you burn up. It's just like, that's a lot of risk for a guy like me. But if you master this propulsion, which we think is doable. And this isn't just coming from me. This is coming from, one of the top 3 guys at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. This is coming from the physicist that was the head physicist on the UFO program at the Pentagon. This is coming from the guy that ran the UFO program, and all these guys are at To the Stars. They think that we can crack this. And if you crack this propulsion, it essentially pushes out a bubble of space-time around the craft. So you don't have any inertia, you don't have any friction, you don't have any of the issues of re-entry where you're burning up. Now, is it easy? No, it's complicated. You're essentially, copying a natural system of something like the sun, or spinning counterclockwise, different electromagnetic fields, and you need extreme voltages, and there's going to be a lot of risk, creating that stuff. But I think once we get to that spot, I think it'll be a much safer play to go into space. And maybe I'll just wait for that, because this is something we can do in the next 10 to 15 years. And people got to think of SpaceX. Elon Musk started SpaceX, and he had rockets, and he was going in within about 10 or 11 years, and he stuck with it. And no one thought he can do it. Everyone thought he was crazy. So that's not that far off, So that's what we're asking people to do, is to support that. And we will bring this technology out to the world is what the goal has always been.
I love the idea that that's, science fiction, thinking about something like that, creating a bubble around what you have, and being able to use propulsion in that way is now possible as a reality. I know, I want to ask you something else too, just to switch gears here, just for a second, just something that you posted on Twitter. I'm a rock fan. I'm a fan of space, but you mentioned that aerospace and rock music go together, and they are symbiotic. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, I look at actors, and actors kind of have this job where you're not really supposed to know who they are as people, because you want to believe them when they play their character in a movie, But when you look at, and then you look at pop acts, and pop acts are performers. Other people write their stuff, and it's really popular, and it's fun, and they dance well, they sing well, and the songs are really catchy and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a different thing as well. But then rock and roll is different. Rock, we're kind of, our job is to know who we are, know what we stand for, and really put it out there. And then you kind of identify with your musician. When you're in high school, it's like, okay, I want to dress like that band, or I want to hang out with people that listen to music like that band. And it kind of becomes, a culture or a tribe around you and your buddies. And I think that we have a voice. The Beatles proved this in the 60s, and so many other bands, Woodstock, when they stand up for something they believe in and they really put themselves out there, it can really matter. It's funny though, because when you look at Angels and Airwaves, the band that I'm doing right now, that is my priority. That is my main band. But people know me from Blink 182, obviously. But I stopped to do all the To the Stars stuff. But Angels and Airwaves has always been an art project that's wanted to communicate large themes of the human race and the infinite possibility of space. Because if space was truly infinite, then that means there's no end to what could be happening out there. And that always excited me. I always wanted to look up and notice that stuff, but I gotta be the only guy that used all these space themes and used all of this kind of dreaming up all this stuff that deals with, who we are, where we're going, and what else is out there. I gotta be the only guy that stopped that for a quick second and created a real aerospace company, and then put together a vehicle with this team to bring out the biggest space secret of all time, and then jump right back in and keep doing the space rock thing. It's kind of funny. At least I'm being me, I guess, is the point, better for better or worse,
Yeah. Bowie didn't stop Ziggy Stardust and go launch a rocket company. So I think you are, you probably are the first one to do that.
But Bowie didn't need to, he was already a god, I guess.
That is true. Well, Tom, I want to say thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. I feel like I can talk to you for hours about what you're doing. It's really, really fascinating with To the Stars Academy, what you've accomplished so far. And I want to find out more about the tech that you're working on. I want to find out more about the music. We've got tothestarsacademy.com. So that's, I'm assuming, we're the best place for people to go to and follow along with what you're doing.
Yeah, tothestarsacademy.com. And just so people know, essentially what we're building, humbly say this because I don't have a better example at the moment, but it's like a Disney and a Lockheed Martin together. Can we make the things we're putting on film? But the science division in itself, though, is really meant to encourage the world to come along and learn with us. Now there's more, like, we already have some sensitive defense contracts. There's going to be some classified stuff down the road. So not everything we do can be discussed, but the majority of it can be. And UFOs are not the only thing we do. We have big film franchises that deal with consciousness and dreams and so on. We have a lot of products that we're launching that can help with the pandemic. And so you're going to see, we just did something, I think it was yesterday, about, a truck that can lift up these big screens and help people in humanitarian crises and everything, and big LED screens and whatever that can be deployed to trouble hotspots. But, there's some other things we're launching in the next couple of weeks as well. And I think what people need to realize is, it's a real company. We're doing a lot of real stuff, but the heart and the soul of the North Star is understanding unidentified aerial objects. And the reason is you got to think about Elon Musk, or not Elon Musk. You got to think about like Sergey, however you say his name, with Google. I always use this analogy that he was, there when someone was creating the internet, and he was just like, okay, I see something here, and I think it's about search. And everyone's like, search? What are you thinking? What are you talking about? The internet's going to be big, and no one trusted it. Well, he was on the tip of a spear with a complete paradigm shift technology that was changing the world, that would change the world. Well, this is the same thing. Whether or not people want to believe it, it doesn't matter. The Navy admitted it was real. The Department of Defense admitted it was real. The videos came out. We have exotic material that we went under contract with the U.S. Army and other areas of the U.S. government. So if it's not the material evidence, if it's evidence, and it's not the videos, and if it's not the Navy and then the DOD all admitting it's real, people, they need to understand it's as real as the phone we use every day. It's coming. And they better brace themselves and get ready. But our company, To the Stars Academy, is meant to be at the tip of the spear when all this happens. And that could be a really, really big deal, to grab all this stuff and understand it, exploit it, and be the first one in. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Wow. Well, it's incredible what you've done so far, and it's a lot to think about, too, with just what you said, being at the tip of the spear, what could be coming. And clearly, you're at the forefront of it and thought about this ahead of time. And Tom, thank you very much for joining us. I really, really mean that. I really appreciate you being here and what you're doing. And I want everybody to follow along with what you're doing and go to the website, follow along Angels and Airwaves. I know you've got your new music coming out, a new song that's out with the proceeds going to help benefit COVID-19. All of that happening. And Tom, thank you very much for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Hey, thank you for having me so much.
Appreciate it so much. Tom DeLonge, right here on Digital Trends Live. That was awesome. Could talk to him for hours about that stuff.